Today, folks, we're diving into a topic that's about as comfortable as a chair made of scorpions: the alleged crimes of Israel against the good old US of A. Now, before you start lobbing accusations faster than a bagel in a food fight, let me be clear. We're not here to point fingers. This isn't about picking sides. It's about asking questions that make people so uncomfortable they start sweating through their Crocs. Buckle up, buttercups, because we're about to take a trip down a rabbit hole so deep, even Alice would need a flashlight. So picture this, 1948. The world's still putting itself back together after a good old-fashioned global brawl, and in the middle of it all, boom, Israel pops up like an overeager gopher in a game of whack-a-mole. Now, the creation of Israel is a whole other bag of falafel we don't have time to unpack today. But the gist is, it was a move that made a lot of people, including some right here in the US of A, a little uneasy. See, there were whispers, allegations if you will, that some serious arm twisting was involved in getting President Truman to recognize Israel. We're talking financial pressure, political maneuvering, the whole shebang. Was it just the usual backroom dealings of international diplomacy or something a little more pungent? Fast forward to 1954, and things get even more intriguing, or as I like to call it, messier than a toddler's face after a spaghetti and meatball buffet. Enter the Lavon affair. This wasn't some scandalous tryst as the name might suggest, but a covert Israeli operation in Egypt that went about as smoothly as a shopping cart with a wobbly wheel. The plan? Frame Egyptian nationals for attacks, stir up some anti-Western sentiment, and make Egypt look bad on the international stage. The problem? It blew up in their faces like a poorly wired firework. The US, blissfully unaware they were being used as a pawn in this geopolitical game of chess, was understandably a tad bit irritated. Hold on to your hats, folks, because things are about to get about as comfortable as a porcupine in a balloon factory. It's 1967, the Six-Day War is raging, and the USS Liberty, a US Navy technical research ship, is just bobbing along, minding its own business in international waters. Suddenly, out of the blue, it's attacked by Israeli forces. The attack lasted for hours, 34 American sailors lost their lives, and to this day, Israel claims it was a case of mistaken identity. Now, I'm not a military strategist, but firing on a ship for that long, it's like mistaking a giraffe for a fire hydrant. You just have to question the eyesight involved. The incident sparked outrage, conspiracy theories, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. Chapter 4. The Rosenbergs' Atomic Secrets, Espionage, and an Alleged Israeli Connection. Now let's rewind the clock a bit to the 1950s, a time of paranoia, suspicion, and some truly questionable hairstyles. The Red Scare was in full swing, and Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were smack dab in the middle of it. Accused of being communist spies and passing atomic secrets to the Soviets, they were convicted and executed in 1953. A controversial case, to say the least. But here's where things get spicy. Some folks believe that Israel, desperate for a nuclear deterrent in its early years, might have been involved. Did the Rosenbergs pass secrets to Israel too? It's a question that still sparks debate and speculation. Chapter 5. Jonathan Pollard, the spy who loved information and maybe falafel. Let's talk about Jonathan Pollard, shall we? A name that's synonymous with espionage, betrayal, and really bad decisions. Pollard, an American intelligence analyst, was caught red-handed in 1985, passing classified information to, you guessed it, Israel. And not just a little light reading material, we're talking thousands of pages of top-secret documents. It was a massive breach of trust, one that landed Pollard in prison for 30 years and put a serious strain on US-Israeli relations. Chapter 6. The JFK Assassination, because one conspiracy theory wasn't enough. Now, we're diving headfirst into the murky depths of conspiracy theories with the big kahuna itself, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. This isn't just a rabbit hole, folks, it's the whole damn Warren. Theories abound, each one more outlandish than the last. And yes, you guessed it, there's one that implicates Israel. Did rogue elements within the Israeli government, unhappy with JFK's stance on their nuclear program, have a hand in his demise? It's a claim that's been roundly debunked by historians and experts. But hey, a good conspiracy theory never really dies, does it? It just goes into hiding, like a possum under a porch. Chapter 7, 9/11, the day the world changed, and the conspiracy theories multiplied like rabbits. We arrive at one of the most tragic and defining events in modern history, 9/11. The attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon shook America to its core, and in the aftermath, as the dust settled, the conspiracy theories began to swirl like dust devils in the desert. One such theory claims that Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, had foreknowledge of the attacks and allowed them to happen to draw the U.S. into a conflict with Islamic extremists. The evidence for this is, shall we say, flimsy at best. Chapter 8. The Iraq War: Oil, Lies, and allegedly a little bit of Israeli influence. The Iraq War. A military intervention launched on the premise of weapons of mass destruction that turned out to be about as real as a unicorn riding a Segway. The 2003 invasion and subsequent occupation of Iraq was a costly endeavor, both in terms of human life and American treasure. But was it all orchestrated by Israel to neutralize a potential threat? Some believe that Israel, seeing Saddam Hussein as a danger to its existence, pushed the U.S. towards war. It's a claim that's difficult to prove definitively, but the influence of neoconservative thinkers with close ties to Israel in the Bush administration certainly adds fuel to the fire. Chapter 9. The Afghanistan Papers, Lost in the Desert, and maybe a pipeline or two. Let's not forget about the war in Afghanistan, America's longest-running conflict. For 20 years, U.S. troops fought and died in a landlocked country halfway across the world. But why? What was the vital national interest that justified such a prolonged and costly commitment? According to one theory, it all boils down to a pipeline. Not just any pipeline, mind you, but a proposed gas pipeline that would have run through Afghanistan, bypassing Russia and Iran, and giving Central Asian gas a route to market through Israel. Did the U.S. invade and occupy Afghanistan to pave the way for this pipeline, potentially benefiting Israel in the process? It's a question that deserves more scrutiny than a politician's expense report. Chapter 10. Jeffrey Epstein, Sex, Blackmail, and allegedly a whole lot more. And finally, we arrive at the darkest and most disturbing chapter in our story. The allegations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, the financier turned convicted sex offender who allegedly used his wealth and connections to traffic underage girls on a global scale. The Epstein case is a tangled web of power, corruption, and depravity that reaches the highest levels of society. But here's where the Israel connection comes in. Some believe that Epstein was an intelligence asset, potentially working for Mossad, and that he used his network of powerful individuals, including politicians, to gather compromising information that could be used for blackmail. Was Epstein a pawn in a larger game of international intrigue? Gap 3S. Chapter 12. A Warning Unheeded, the Beirut Bombings and Alleged Israeli Foreknowledge. On October 23, 1983, 2 truck bombs struck buildings in Beirut, Lebanon, housing American and French service members, killing 241 U.S. and 58 French peacekeepers. It was a devastating blow, and one of the deadliest attacks on Americans overseas since World War II. But here's where things get murky. There are allegations that Israel had foreknowledge of the attack and chose not to share this critical information with the United States. The theory goes that Israel, embroiled in its own regional conflicts, saw the presence of U.S. forces in Lebanon as a complicating factor. By withholding intelligence, some allege that they aimed to expedite American withdrawal from the region. This accusation is, of course, highly controversial and remains unproven. Nonetheless, it adds another layer to the complex and often contentious relationship between Israel and the United States. Was this an act of strategic calculation or simply a tragic intelligence failure? We'll likely never know the full story, but it serves as a grim reminder of the high stakes and shadowy dealings that often define international relations. Outro. So, what have we learned? Probably not enough to impress a history professor. Well, folks, there you have it. 10 of the most controversial and often debated actions attributed to Israel. Are these accusations true? Honestly, I'm just a guy with a microphone and an unhealthy obsession with current events, so don't take my word for it. But whether you believe these claims or not, one thing's for sure. The relationship between Israel and the United States is a complex and often contradictory one. It's a relationship built on shared values, strategic interests, and a whole lot of behind-the-scenes maneuvering. The truth, as they say, is often stranger than fiction. And in this case, it might just involve a few more shadowy figures and backroom deals than we'd like to admit.